Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Committee B. And yesterday we ended at sub-item 6.2.1 on the State Safety Program. This morning we'll start straight away from sub-item 6.2.2 on Safety Management Systems, SMS. Annex 19 further establishes that states shall retain certain service providers to implement a safety management system, SMS, as part of their state safety program. Yesterday, the Secretariat presented WP 28, which introduced safety management in general. So I will invite China to present WP 146 on SMS. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all. Now, I would like to, on behalf of China, present WP 146, improving implementation effectiveness of the safety management system and SMS assessment. ICAO requires the contracting states to mandate their service providers to establish SMS. GASP has actively fulfilled its obligations as a contracting state, having established an SMS that is in compliance with requirements of ICAO and suits China's reality. Since 2008, GASP has developed and issued in succession SMS implementation requirements for airports, airline security entities, air traffic management entities, maintenance organizations, and dangerous goods transport enterprises. In order to evaluate and enhance the actual performance and the maturity of SMS, GASP since 2010 started SMS assessment and developed SMS assessment checklist for airlines, airports, air traffic management entities, and tools and systems, and carried out assessments over 40 airlines and airports. Over years of practice, we have achieved fairly satisfactory results. We would like to invite ICAO and SMICG, as well as other countries and organizations to share experiences, views, methods, and extensively collect and address problems arising from SMS implementations, establish and improve SMS assessment methods and standards, and work out a set of mature performance evaluation methods in SMS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, China. Public to present Working Paper 152, Dominican Republic.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. We are going to present this working paper on behalf of the Dominican Republic, WP 152, on the importance of certifying the safety management system of air navigation service providers in the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic to meet with the international provisions, which date from November 2006, and also the local regulations, has been setting up the necessary structure for the planning and implementation of safety management systems for air navigation service providers for the Santo Domingo of FIR. So in order to have reached a maturity February 2017, DINA underwent an evaluation by the Civil Air Navigation Services Organization Council using the Standard of Excellence for Air Navigation Services. And this showed that our organisation has a well-developed and well-implemented SMS, which is in good standing under Annex 19 of ICAO. So once we'd gone through this assessment process, we started our work in order for SMS to be approved before our national body, which deals with the Safety Management and Planning Development Directorate. So in February 2018, our air navigation service provider was audited once again, and the results have shown that our SMS is in full compliance with our national standards and also the international standards. So there was an approval, a certification that was given by the CAA, and this is a source of pride for us. And the DINA SMS certification process has allowed us to set up vital processes to actually guarantee safe provision of our services. And this process has now reached a mature level. So thanks to safety performance indicators, we've had to be able to check that we're meeting the acceptable level of safety performance. And with our safety data capture process, we've been able to ensure that we have become the main supplier of safety information for the SSP of the Dominican Republic. And this is why we'd like to invite the conference to urge states to certify the SMS of their air navigation service providers so as to consolidate their safety management processes and obtain valuable information from nearly all of their civil aviation systems. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Dominican Republic. We have noted information paper 289 presented by Tanzania on the status of safety management system implementation. I'll now open the floor for questions, comments, and contributions. United Arab Emirates, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the working paper provided by the Dominican Republic. UAE supports the paper. We believe that the certification of air navigation service providers, airdrome operators or airports, air operators will provide an assurance of compliance with ICAO standards and recommended practices. And one big element of this is the acceptance of safety management system. Hence, in the UAE, this is the process that we follow, definitely. We are believers of certification of the organizations, and SMS is one big element of such processes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, UAE. We now have Trinidad and Tobago requesting for the floor. Trinidad and Tobago.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, all. Trinidad and Tobago would like to state its support for working paper 152 as presented by the Dominican Republic. And we note the comments of the United Arab Emirates. Thank you.
Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago. Cuba, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chairman. Cuba supports the working paper presented by the Dominican Republic also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cuba. It's now the turn of Saudi Arabia to take the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Saudi Arabia also supports working paper number 178 presented by the Dominican Republic. Thank you.
Thank you. It's rather 152 presented by Dominican Republic. Okay. Thank you. Rwanda, you have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you, Chairman, and good morning to my colleagues. In reference to Working Paper 152, we would like to congratulate the Dominican Republic on the success of their SMS program. Rwanda believes this process is essential in certifications of all organizations. We are also developing our program with urgency as we consider it, and it's essential for the growth of our organizations and others. Thank you.
Thank you, Rwanda. Ecuador, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Chairman. And good morning to the distinguished delegations. Ecuador also wants to support what's been said by the Dominican Republic in Working Paper 152. We are convinced that the success that has been achieved is worthy of congratulations, and we think this can also be achieved in other regions and other states. Certification of the SMS and the air navigation service providers has become vital in order to comply with ICAO standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Ecuador. I will now invite Colombia to take the floor.
Gracias.
Thank you, Chairman. Colombia would also like to support the working paper submitted by the Dominican Republic, namely urging states to certify the SMS of their air navigation service providers. We fully back that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colombia. There are no further requests for the floor, so I'll give the floor to the Secretariat for any clarifications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and good morning to all. So just to clarify the usage of terminology, in Annex 19, when we speak about SMS implementation for service providers, the terminology used is that the SMS shall be made acceptable to the state. So we talk more about the acceptance or the approval of SMS. The issue of the certification of an air navigation services provider or an air traffic services provider, I think is maybe a separate issue than the acceptance of the SMS, and is actually the subject of a working paper that will be presented under Agenda Item 3.5, Working Paper 95, to be presented by the United Arab Emirates. So with the permission of the committee, I would prefer that that discussion be held under Agenda Item 3.5, and I believe that the working paper presented by the Dominican Republic, Working Paper 152, highlights more the benefits that you receive when the air traffic services or the air navigation services provider has an SMS that's implemented and mature, and that is the main points to be taken from that paper. So with the agreement of the committee, I would like to restrict what we're discussing under this agenda item to SMS acceptance for air traffic services providers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. So I think this concludes our discussion on safety management system. And we thank China for sharing their SMS implementation experience. Our thanks also goes to Dominican Republic. And we can conclude sub-item 6.2 with your permission as follows. States should share practical examples and tools related to SMS implementation on the Safety Management Implementation website. Then, as was explained by Secretariat, the issue of ANSP certification will be under discussion in Committee A. So we'll restrict ourselves more to the benefits of SMS. So we can also conclude that the implementation of SMS by air traffic service providers yields many benefits, including the use of the data collected to provide a way to cross-check what's happening in the aviation system. Thank you very much. We will now move to sub-item 6.2.3 on developing safety intelligence. Developing safety intelligence is described in the 4th edition of the Safety Management Manual as leveraging safety data and safety information to develop actionable insights which can be used by an organization's leadership to make data-driven decisions. This agenda item will focus on organizational issues related to the development of safety intelligence, which will be discussed more in depth under agenda item 7.1. I will now invite Ayata to present working paper 300 on the subject. Ayata, you have the floor.
Good morning all, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. This working paper is presented, as noted, together with IFAPA and IFATCA. For many years, airline operators and air navigation service providers have collected safety data through auto data capture systems as well as voluntary and internal reports, all widely recognized as highly sensitive. So much so that the First Amendment to Annex 19 elevated protection principles to standards and recommended practices to ensure the continued availability of such data and information. States have recognized the benefit of using this safety data and information in an aggregate, de-identified way with industry collaboration to support the state safety program activities. The additional insight gained through this collaboration is critical to understanding the safety information in the correct way. The context is as important as the information itself. However, some organizations have expressed concerns about the lack of collaborative process and, as an option, mandating the collection of raw flight data and other voluntary and internal reports. There is no question regarding the ability of a state to require any type of data to be submitted to them by a service provider in the interest of safety. However, potential risks to safety may be raised by the lack of contextual information that can be used to analyze these safety risks. It is easy to misinterpret data and information, and over the years, airline operators and air navigation service providers have gained considerable experience through established processes and procedures to assure the proper collection, analysis, and understanding of their own safety data and information. This has been enabled through the gradual creation of trust amongst employees and unions or associations, and can be leveraged in collaborative programs to maximize effectiveness. Mandating an exchange of data without establishing mechanisms to build trust first may pose a significant risk to the continued availability of such data, with a subsequent possible negative impact to safety management. This is in addition to the challenge of accurately understanding the data without the proper context. The paper is aimed to acknowledge those risks, emphasize the protection principles, and encourage states to utilize the benefits of the significant learnings and investments from both airline operators and air navigation service providers through the establishment of trust and collaboration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ayata, IFAPA, and IFATCA. As is the usual practice, because they are international organizations, we need a minimum of 2 states to support before we can consider or discuss the paper. So if you are in support, just press your mic button and it will reflect on my screen. Okay, I have several. Yeah, several. Thank you very much. Thank you. And before we discuss the WP 300, we have noted information paper 203 presented by China on promotion of safety performance management. Okay, so I will now open the floor for questions. Italy, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and distinguished delegates. Italy wishes to support Working Paper 300 presented by IATA together with IFALPA and IFATCA. Data provided on a voluntary basis, and not only on a voluntary basis, is an essential part of an effective reporting system, which is the basis of a good state safety program. Use of voluntary data and safety data in general it's basically it's necessary for improving safety, and the disclosure of this data would actually vanish the no-blame culture. So, however, in order to satisfy the specific state safety needs, Italy believes that in some specific circumstances and in specific contexts, this data might be used by the states where appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Italy. I'll now invite Chile to take the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Chairman. The Republic of Chile supports Working Paper 300 presented by these organizations, these aeronautical organizations. And we'd like to underline that we think that there absolutely has to be cooperation between the states and the operators when it comes to data exchange. However, on this matter, in certain states, in particular in Latin America, because of other legislation, for certain states it's quite difficult to ensure the necessary protection of these data that are handed over by the operators. So once certain states possess these data because of certain laws which are applicable in certain member states, it becomes public data, data in the public domain. So we have this problematic issue. Therefore, we think it would be very suitable for ICAO to work with these member states who have these difficulties to raise awareness amongst the political authorities that the safety data which is exchanged between operators and the state could be given an additional level of protection and be excluded from laws which exist in certain member states. So if there's direct action taken by ICAO with the political superiors in these member states, I think that would be very beneficial so that we could get the necessary level of data protection that comes from the operators. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chile. It's now the turn of Council to take the floor. Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, all. To keep it short and sweet, Council fully supports this well-written paper, Working Paper 300. Thank you.
I'll now invite the Flight Safety Foundation to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Flight Safety Foundation as well supports Working Paper 300 for all the reasons stated, and especially the 3 emphasis points that were directed towards the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Flight Safety Foundation. Venezuela, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela would like to support WP 300 presented by IATA. We have tried to work on this with operators and also operators in states in order to get their feedback on this, to try and deal with the issues of the airlines and the operators when it comes to safety aspects. And Venezuela shares the concerns expressed by Chile. We are creating the legal conditions and procedures to ensure that this data can be used just for safety purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Venezuela. United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United States fully supports the principles of this paper. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. Dominican Republic, it's your turn.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Chairman. We also support Working Paper 300 and its contents. And we agree with Chile, namely, we need support. The Dominican Republic is indeed one of the member states which is confronted with this issue. In order to have confidentiality of the information, it's difficult because in the Dominican Republic, we've got a law for freedom of access to information, which means that any citizen can go to a state office and ask for information. And under this legislation, we in the Civil Aviation Institute have to provide this information to the citizen who asks for it. So the Dominican Civil Aviation Institute has been trying to do awareness raising in our Congress in the Republic, including visits to certain senators. And we'd like to thank ICAO that we have been well received by the Secretary General and the President of ICAO, and they hear that it's so important to protect this information. The Congress has now approved a draft bill. It's been sent now to the executive power, and we're hoping that this will be enacted, this legislation, which will actually establish the protection of safety data. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Dominican Republic. Ecuador, you have the floor.
Yes, gracias.
Thank you, Chairman. Ecuador fully supports WP 300. Ecuador also aligns itself with the concept expressed by Chile. It's extremely important, Chairman, to take into account what's been raised by Chile. It's a very important legislative field so that we can have progressive and sustainable development to accompany the progress of SMS and safety performance. And this really needs to be studied in detail by ICAO so that we can really give the necessary support and guidelines to the member states. So Ecuador very much aligns itself with what has been said by Chile as well as what is expressed in the Working Paper 300. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ecuador. I'll invite Germany to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all. We would like to support the delegation of Italy in regard to Working Paper 300. Thank you.
Thank you, Germany. Colombia, you have the floor.
Hello. Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Chairman. Colombia would also like to support Working Paper 300 and reiterate the importance for us of protecting the information related to safety data. We've repeated this on many occasions, that protection of this information and the data which flows from this is indeed to improve safety levels in member states and not for any other purposes. Therefore, we very much support this working paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colombia. There are no further requests for the floor, so I'll give the floor to the Secretariat for any clarifications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. So, in Annex 19, states are expected to establish a safety data collection and processing system to enable data analysis. The sharing and exchange of safety data and safety information between states and between industry is also addressed in Annex 19. The sources for the data to be included in an SDCPS include voluntary reporting systems in auto data capturing systems. And we understand that there are different legal frameworks and operating environments that are specific to each state, and that there are different arrangements that can be put in place to facilitate the collection of safety data and safety information in a way that the principles for the protection of the safety data and safety information are respected. So the actions in the paper, Working Paper 300, are very consistent with the Annex 19 principles that should be applied. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Realize that WP300 has received overwhelming support. Yes, so it makes our work very easy when everybody's in support. And as I said, the context is as important as the information itself, and there's a need for enhanced collaboration in sharing safety data. And we need seriously to look at protection of safety data consistent with Annex 19 principles. So from the discussions, we can summarize as follows, with your permission. Developing safety intelligence is key if we are to be able to ensure that the right decisions are made in a timely manner. The aviation community must work together to develop trust in order to support the collection of the data needed to support safety intelligence. The analysis of safety data and safety information requires an understanding of the context in order to arrive at accurate conclusions, and that is best achieved when there is collaboration between states and industry. Finally, states that require their industry to give them access to the safety data collected through voluntary and or auto data capture systems should ensure that the protective provisions in Annex 19 are respected. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of agenda item 6.2. So, they won't come back. Do you think they will come back? We can take 5 minutes break. Oh, you think they won't come back? Okay, they won't come back. One last thing. Secretariat, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I just wanted to express my thanks to the committee for the support expressed for future work related to the effective implementation of safety management. That being said, we have identified quite a lot of work that's still left to be done, and I just need to advise you that that future work getting done is, of course, subject to financial resources and human resources and budgetary constraints. So I just needed to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. So we've concluded 6.2, implementation of safety management. We will move straight away to agenda item 6.3 on the evolution of the USOAP CMA, that's the Universal Safety Oversight Audit Program, continuous monitoring approach. Now, agenda item 6.3 addresses ICAO's continuous monitoring activities under the Universal Safety Oversight Program, USOAP, and specifically the evolution of the USOAP CMA to meet the needs of states and ICAO. You will recall that following the outcome of the 39th Assembly, an independent group of experts was formed to perform a structured review of the USOAP CMA. This group named GEUSR, again, lots of abbreviations. Well, that stands for Group of Experts for a Structured Review of the USOAP CMA, composed of experts from 10 states and 1 RSOO, completed its work last year. The recommendations of the GEUSR were agreed by Council in June, that's ICAO Council, in June this year. These recommendations will form the basis for the evolution of the USOAP CMA. Sub-items 6.3.1 and 6.3.2 relate to the USOAP CMA and the USOAP CMA online framework. At this juncture, I will invite the Secretariat to present Working Paper 21, Revision 1, on the evolution of the USOAP CMA. Then I'll ask states and international organizations to present other papers in the batch. Secretariat, you have the floor to present WP 21 revised.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. This working paper addresses the evolution of the USOAP CMA methodology, processes, and tools, and calls for the conference to support such evolution based on the recommendations made by the GEUSR. The content of the working paper derives from the work undertaken by the GEUSR. This independent group developed 37 recommendations aiming at the further evolving and strengthening of the USOAP CMA through mainly 6 axes. The first one is a structured review of the USOAP CMA protocol questions, the PQs, including a reduction in the total number of PQs, the development and use of priority PQs, new types of USOAP CMA activities and an enhancement of the process to prioritize them, the development and use of an expanded set of indicators related to USOAP CMA, the enhancements of the USOAP CMA training and guidance, and finally, the enhancements of the USOAP CMA tools, mainly the USOAP CMA online framework, the OLF. The Council agreed with all 37 recommendations made by the GEUSR, but also highlighted the need to avoid the loss of pertinent information when reducing the total number of USOAP CMA protocol questions. The conference is invited to agree to the recommendation contained in paragraph 3 of the working paper. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. I will now invite Australia to present Working Paper 79, Revision 1. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Australia is pleased to present Working Paper 79 with the support of the 15 states listed. We would firstly like to recognise the contributions of the states, EASA and the Secretariat involved in the GEUSR under the admirable leadership of Singapore in completing a comprehensive review within a limited timeframe. In conducting this review, the group was mindful of the enormous importance of the USOAP CMA program in providing the only global benchmark of aviation safety oversight, as well as its role in delivering aviation safety improvements through the implementation of ICAO standards. Our goal was to deliver a suite of recommendations that would maintain and in places improve on those outcomes while improving the efficiency of the system to improve engagement from states struggling to meet the requirements of the program. This working paper seeks formal endorsement by this meeting of all the recommendations of the GEUSR as agreed by the ICAO Council. And we agree that a well-developed plan for the implementation of the recommendations should be developed by ICAO for consideration and endorsement at next year's Assembly. However, we also believe that there are some short-term improvements that can be implemented now. The GEUSR Group A recommendations, included in our paper, will deliver significant benefits to ICAO in the administration of the USOAP CMA program, and even more importantly, to 192 states by reducing the administrative burden of the program, allowing states to focus on remedying outstanding issues, and more importantly, to concentrate on delivering safety oversight. It also prevents the perverse outcome where ICAO and states are preparing for audits, conducting audits, and potentially developing corrective action plans on protocol questions that will not exist after the next Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Australia, for presenting on behalf of several states. I will invite Austria to present working paper 44 on behalf of the EU and its member states, the other member states of the ECAC, and by Eurocontrol. Austria, you have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. I want to forward the floor to EASA to present the paper. Thank you.
EASA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to present this paper on behalf of the European Union and its member states and the other member states of the European Civil Aviation Conference and Eurocontrol. USOAP is one of the success stories of ICAO. Over the years, it has provided an objective overview of state safety oversight systems and helped many states to identify safety issues and address them properly. It is of utmost importance that USOAP is given the right level of priority by ICAO and the contracting states, and that the critical safety information brought by the program remains up to date. The purpose of this paper is to present some proposals on how to strengthen the USOAP, but by also improving its efficiency, thus making sure it remains useful and relevant. Firstly, we fully support the recommendations and, what is also important, the observations of the group of experts, GEUSR, and we propose ICAO implements them as a matter of priority. Secondly, there are ways in which the program could be made more agile and responsive and address the areas of greatest needs. We propose ICAO progressively delegates certain functions and activities of USOAP to safety partners and designees. This would allow ICAO to increase the outreach of its CMA activities around the world, make the program more effective, and focus the attention of ICAO staff on the areas needing greatest attention. A safety partner, such as an RSOO, may perform CMA activities, including the collection of information and validation of a state's progress, complementing the regular activities conducted by ICAO. This can also be achieved through better integration of established inspection and monitoring programs, such as the standardization activities of EASA. Provided there are robust control and oversight mechanisms managed and run by ICAO, increasing the overall resources available to the USOAP through the use of safety partners would ensure reliable outcomes without duplication of effort and to the same standards. The upcoming SSP assessment activities planned to start in 2021 offer the possibility to test such proposals in practice. Thirdly, we also propose that the state safety risk profile described in ICAO Doc 9735 is presented in a more transparent manner. This would allow states, RSOs, and other stakeholders to better understand how ICAO prioritizes states for CMA activities and allow states to better prepare for such activities. Finally, while GEUSR is an improvement, We urge ICAO to look at further improvements on the USOAP. Considering the challenges of today's multinational and fast-changing aviation environment, we need different tools to respond to the different risks around the globe and different levels of safety maturity. We suggest that ICAO presents a first concept on the further evolution of USOAP at the upcoming assembly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, EASA. I'll now invite Canada to present WP 122. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to present Working Paper 122. The ICAO Universal Safety Oversight Audit Program Continuous Monitoring Approach is particularly critical for states preparing for an upcoming ICAO audit. The self-assessment methodology allows states to identify processes that are well-functioning or may require improvement. This methodology is valuable, but is nevertheless subject to certain limitations. As states have highly complex and distinct civil aviation systems, it is not unprecedented that interpretation of guidance material and protocol questions differ amongst regulators. Canada recognizes the potential of a peer assessment methodology, one in which states work cooperatively to complete the self-assessment in removing some of these obstacles. Canada is collaborating with Brazil on a self-assessment, which has already highlighted potential benefits of a peer assessment methodology. While ICAO has provided strong guidance for understanding expectations in USOAP simulated audits, interpretation of specific questions and subjects often differ. States have very distinct and complex civil aviation systems, and so it is expected that understanding of certain subject matter sometimes differs. Peer assessments provide an opportunity to increase knowledge of member states regarding interpretations of protocol questions and acceptable responses, including appropriate evidence. In the end, this identifies opportunities for additional guidance while also increasing compliance with international standards and recommended practices. Above all, the peer assessment process has allowed for increased cooperation and coordination between Canada and Brazil. This process provides a key opportunity for relationship building between states and may also open doors for new partnerships and agreements. The results of USOAP peer assessments could provide new avenues for agreements and arrangements between member states. Greater confidence in states' respective civil aviation systems can be achieved with a deeper understanding of what regulatory program infrastructure is in place in support of the effective implementation score. This increased understanding between member states paves the way for potential agreements and arrangements in areas of airworthiness, maintenance, etc. In turn, these agreements will facilitate new opportunities for respective states, economic markets, and consumers engaging in the industry. In light of the above, the conference is invited to agree with the following recommendations. That the conference, A, recognize the benefits of the USOAP simulated audits through both self-assessment and peer assessment. Invite the Air Navigation Bureau to consider giving credit to candidate auditors who have participated in peer assessments, and further encourage results of self-assessments as a precursor to expedited audits and bilateral agreements. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Canada. I will now invite Uruguay to present Working Paper 189. And this paper is supported by the South American states. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. The human being is the most flexible and adaptable part of the aviation system, but it's also the most vulnerable one, which can have a negative impact as a result of its behavior and can lead to human errors. Safety audits should seek ways to minimize or prevent human errors of all kinds, which may endanger safety. Of course, we cannot have total elimination of human error. That would be an illusory goal. But the challenge is to learn to manage in a safe way the errors that actually occur. In this working paper, we put forward the different requirements and tasks to be fulfilled for the implementation of the fatigue management of air traffic services for the year 2020 to actually apply Amendment 50B of Annex 11, and also the inclusion of this in the audit protocol, the CMA of the USOAP. We are inviting the conference to take note of the information presented in this working paper and consider the proposal for the inclusion of the fatigue management requirements for air traffic services within the Air Navigation Services Audit Protocol of the CMA of USOAP. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Uruguay. We have a final paper in this batch, working paper 127, and it's being presented by the AFCAC member states, and I would like to know which state is presenting the paper on behalf of the 54 states. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya presents on behalf of AFCAC, reinforcing the use of CMA mechanism through conduct of audits and ICVM and other approaches. This working paper proposes a regionally harmonized approach to strengthen the Universal Safety Oversight Audit Program, USOAP, continuous monitoring approach, CMA, mechanism within the African Civil Aviation Commission, AFCAC, member states by facilitating sharing of experiences in the conduct of safety oversight. The proposed approach takes into account the sharing of personnel, tools, and approaches, best practices for the attainment and enhancement of outcomes in safety oversight. This paper also highlights some challenges faced by the African states in the implementation of USOAP CMA and outlines some proposals in order to reinforce the use of USOAP CMA system. This conference is invited to take note of the information contained in this paper, request ICAO to allocate enough resources to support the use of CMA, and endorse the initiative by AFCAC member states in reinforcing the use of CMA mechanisms as a method of enhancing safety levels in Africa. The International Civil Aviation Organization Universal Safety Oversight Audit Program continuous monitoring approach provides a mechanism for the collection and analysis of safety information from member states and other stakeholders in identifying and prioritizing appropriate oversight and monitoring activities to be carried out by ICAO. It is a strategy that uses a risk-based approach for measuring and monitoring the safety oversight capabilities and improving safety performance of the states and global aviation safety oversight. The ICAO use of CMA activities include audits, ICAO coordinated validation missions, such as ICVMs, offsite validations, mandatory information request mail, state oversight program SSP, implementation and assessment of voluntary and workshops. The organization issues an annual activity plan, which issues an electronic bulletin and posted on ICAO secure portal. There are challenges, especially in African states, have been facing in the area of safety oversight, and hence there's need to have the same resolved in the coordinated and well-planned approach. This can be achieved through partner member states sharing the expertise in the civil aviation authorities. Many states are expected to be audited by ICAO, have not been audited. However, ICAO has not scheduled audits in a timely manner due to lack of adequate resources. Subsequent to that, the effective implementation EI of several states does not reflect the actual and accurate EI status. In some instances, ICAO does not issue the final report within the stipulated timelines. The Comprehensive Regional Implementation Plan for Aviation Safety in Africa identifies the following challenges facing the Africa region, and these are They do not have the effective safety oversight system within the respective Civil Aviation Administration, CS. They also lack adequate expertise, empowerment, appropriate delegation, and authority to operate levels within the Civil Aviation Administrations. They do not have funding, as they are still dependent exclusively on their state budget. As a consequence, many administration lacks the necessary qualified technical and administrative staff to carry out their safety oversight obligations. They do not have an adequate, appropriate, and appropriate system for the certification, continuous surveillance, and existence of operational manuals, training programs, and accident prevention programs. Hence, they have made slow progress in the implementation of action plans to resolve the ICAO Universal Safety Oversight user findings. There is therefore need to commit the implementation of ICAO provisions to the International Aviation Organization, and as it indicated, the world average effective implementation is about 66.05, whereas the majority of the African states are below 60% in the AFI region. Therefore, there's need for cooperation within the established regional safety oversight organizations, bodies to enable harmonization and standardization of safety oversight requirements and practice, sharing of best practices in USOAP CMA between states, so that we have a higher EI with those lower and with those with high EI that is lower. This will involve exchange of programs between states, especially in weak areas. Increase activity by ICAO through audits and ICVMs, and ensure that this enhance inspector competency, objectivity, and independence. In conclusion, Chair, the current International Civil Aviation Organization world average implementation of SAPS 66.05, and whereas that one, as I said earlier on, is 60% or less within the AF region, and in order to improve this and enhance expert sharing of experience amongst us through the AFI CIS program, ICAO increased budget allocation of the USOAP CMA and the cooperation between all states and the assistance from ICAO regional offices on the online framework activities and evidence collection and presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kenya, for presenting WP 217 on behalf of the African member states. I will now open the floor for questions, comments, and contributions. Spain, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. On this subject and of the different working papers, we consider that the proposals from AFCAC, Uruguay, and Canada in 217, 189, and 122 are excellent proposals which should be taken into consideration by this committee and the conference as a whole. But my comments are more directed towards document 21, 44, and 79. We've got 21 that was presented by the Secretariat, and then 44 from EASA, and then 79 from Australia. In document 21, the Secretariat makes a recommendation to the conference, which we've got in 3 sub-paragraphs. First of all, requesting states to continue to engage fully in the USOAP. And of course, we support that. And then the third one requests ICAO to continue evolving the USOAP CMA methodology, processes, and tools. And of course, we support that too. But the second one, B, you've read out something that was then nuanced by the Secretariat, namely you've taken note that the Council agreed to the recommendations, but I think this needs to be nuanced. The Council looked at the document, and the Council will have to send these recommendations to the ANC, and the Council will need to evaluate what are going to be the consequences of these recommendations, and the Council will introduce certain precautions that fortunately, thank you, the Secretary has mentioned, namely there needs to be certain caution so that in this exercise where we're rationalising the process, we have to ensure that we don't lose relevant information. And this warning needs to be systematically included when we're referring to this exercise being carried out in the Council. And I'll explain why we need to be cautious. First of all, I have to tell you that this delegation is aware of the fact that safety oversight is the third fundamental pillar of this organisation. We've got the standards and then assistance, and then thirdly, safety oversight. So we very much agree that this third fundamental pillar of the organisation has to be maintained, has to become more efficient, has to evolve, and we have to avoid duplication. And we'd like to thank the group of experts for the exercise that they've carried out, because they've done comprehensive work with the structure that has been explained. And we've got reasonable recommendations. First of all, it says that we need to avoid questions which are not directly related to safety. For example, those that are based on assistance to victims' families or pandemics, and certification aspects related to environmental issues. Now, it's curious that we've got over 1,000 protocol questions, and you've just focused just in on 2 or 3 that we can count on the fingers of one hand. Now, certain questions have to be eliminated, but there needs to be an alternative mechanism identified to do this. So then in the second recommendation, it is said that policies will be established to exclude anything which refers to Annex 9 and Annex 16 and Annex 17. This is rather curious, because in Annex 17 is audited, but not Annex 16. We don't have a mechanism for the moment to avoid Annex 9 and 16. So we're saying that we will exclude some of these, but it does not come up with a solution to resolve this issue. Thus, Chairman, we support, as we've said, rationalisation, streamlining, that this should evolve and that we should avoid duplication. And the conference can endorse the recommendations that have been put forward by the GEUSR. But when it comes to the streamlining process, we have to tread cautiously so that we do not lose relevant information. If I had to say it in English, I would say, please do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I don't just want to say this, but I would also say that if certain protocol questions that are not directly related to safety and which are not going to be included in USOAP, ICAO should audit this information through other means, but these alternative means need to be established beforehand. And it seems that we're throwing things away without knowing where we're going to be putting them instead. So I think that we need to bear all of this in mind. And we have to, of course, bear in mind also the third fundamental pillar, safety oversight. It's essential, and it needs to be further refined. And we need to promote this evolution towards something ever more efficient. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Spain. We'll now invite Austria to take the floor.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. Chairman. Austria fully supports recommendations and observations of the GEUSR presented in Working Paper 21 and would like to congratulate the group members and the Secretariat for the excellent outcome of their work. It is important that the USOAP as a program and its tools remain up to date and efficiently support states and ICAO in improving safety levels worldwide. Therefore, we urge ICAO to implement them as the matter of priority. In case a non-safety related PQ that otherwise provided useful information is deleted, we suggested ICAO collects that information through other means. In addition, the proposals of Australia in Working Paper 7.9 and Canada in Working Paper 1.2.2 are supported. We also acknowledge the challenges states face with the participation in the USOAP CMA. Therefore, the proposals of the AFCA states in Working Paper 2.17 are supported. In the European ICAO region, there is a close cooperation between the regional office of ICAO and the EASA, who organized jointly the annual meeting of National Continuous Monitoring Coordinators, NCMCs, where the region, which supports the peer support and exchange of experiences. Thus, we would like to draw the attention to the European Working Paper 44, which addresses the issues of the efficiency of USOAP. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Austria. It's now the turn of Indonesia to take the floor. Indonesia. Please press the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all delegates. Thank you also to Australia for the presentation. Indonesia in the session concurs and supports the presentation Working Paper 79 and presented by Australia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Indonesia. United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United States would like to express our appreciation to ICAO for convening the group of experts for a USOAP CMA structured review. We believe the recommendations from this group, as discussed in Working Paper 21, will positively affect the future capabilities of the USOAP. The United States also supports consideration and discussion of proposals to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of this important program. As identified in Working Papers 44, 66, 79, 122, and others, there are a number of possible solutions to sustain the viability and effectiveness of USOAP. The United States strongly recommends a group such as the GEUSR address these recommendations holistically to support the future vision for the USOAP program. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. South Africa, you have the floor.
Chair, South Africa support Working Paper 21 and especially appreciate the great work done by the group of experts. We also support Working Paper 79, 121, and 122, and 217. Chair, we also want to caution against the paragraph contained on Working Paper 44, paragraph 3.1a, whereby, maybe let me start by saying, history has taught us that we really fail to learn from history. What have we done to ourselves over time? With the evolution of USOAP audit, can we really say we didn't see this coming? Whereby, as much as we encourage the industry to migrate to risk-based oversight, why has we failed from ourselves to say we should be doing the same with regard to safety oversight or USOAP audits? Shouldn't we also look at empowering states to have a group of experts that can help ICAO to conduct the USOAP audits? Are we going to decentralize to a degree that we cautioned yesterday that is safety oversight now really migrating to a commercialized process? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, South Africa. Italy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Italy wishes to support Working Paper 44 presented by EASA. Specifically, we want to support and we agree on the work, the hard work performed by ICAO with a group of experts. And we also believe that USOAP is a really a good method to improve safety all worldwide, and it should be reviewed at least in terms, in structural terms, and it's necessary to maintain dedicated resources from ICAO to complete the activities related to the USOAP cycles. And in doing that, Italy believes that it should be given credit to some kind of support from different organizations like the Regional Safety Oversight Organization and other entities that if and when proper qualified, they can really support on specific tasks ICAO in performing their duties. Italy also believes that in the defining the CMA priorities, it should be improve the transparency of information, because ICAO has done a lot of efforts to have all the informations available. However, what is appear is that the major criteria to define the activities is related to the effective implementation index, on the lack of effective implementation index. So we believe that more transparency in providing this evidence to the member states, to the Regional Safety Oversight Organization is needed. We also want to support the intervention of Spain, in particular for the part regarding the assistance of the parents of our incident victims. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Italy. I'll now call on the Dominican Republic to take the floor.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Chairman. The Dominican Republic wants to support Working Paper 21 from the Secretariat. Of course, we also want to bear in mind the comments that have been made by Spain on this. We'd also like to take this opportunity to support Working Paper 122 from Canada and 189 submitted by Uruguay, and also on behalf of the other SAM states. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Dominican Republic. Republic of Korea, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Republic of Korea supports Working Paper 21 presented by the Secretariat and welcomes the recommendations in 6 different fields for the evolution of the USOAP CMA. Related to the online framework, Republic of Korea has been cooperating with ICAO for the development of this auditing tool since 2012. For effective implementation of the GEUSR recommendations, Republic of Korea will continuously cooperate with the Secretariat for the functional enhancement of the online framework as recommended by the GEUSR. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Republic of Korea. Nigeria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nigeria supports the Working Paper 21 presented by the Secretariat and acknowledges and appreciates the work of the group of experts. We also support the Working Paper 217 by AFCAC. We similarly are in support of the Working Paper 79 by Australia. We support the Working Paper 44 to a very large extent. Specifically, Nigeria is in support of the recommendations to provide better resource to ICAO for the USOAP CMA and making available to all states and RSOs the safety risk profiles of audited states in a transparent manner, showing clear link with CMA activity planning. However, Nigeria has reservations on the recommendation as contained in 3.1 bracket C, i.e. delegation of full and partial audits to a safety partner. Nigeria would like to inform the conference that one of the reasons why the ICAO USOAP CMA enjoys global acceptance and respect is the objectivity and independence of the program. If an accredited safety partner were to audit its own constituent members, and ICAO is made to present such reports as its own, one of the questions that will arise will be that other member states who are not subjected to these safety partners audits are not being subjected to the same audit requirements and processes of the USOAP CMA. The outcome of such audits, the audits by safety partners, may suffer from a lack of global acceptance and its perceived subjectivity. Nigeria believes that the desired improvement in the efficiency of ICAO USOAP CMA will be achieved if the program is appropriately resourced and there is improvement in the transparency of the criteria for the prioritization vis-à-vis the CMA activity planning. Nigeria supports also the working paper 122 by Canada. We see peer assessments as a good initiative that will help the affected states to improve their AI scores. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigeria. The screen is very full. We'll take about 2 or 3 more contributions, then we'll break for coffee. Next to take the floor is Peru.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chairman, for giving me the floor. I wish to refer to the working paper from Austria 44, where my delegation supports this in terms of the recommendation to be put to the conference so that there can be adequate resources to guarantee that there can be continuous oversight. We consider that these recommendations are valid for USOAP, which is a very important instrument in terms of safety. However, in the recommendations under C, it talks once again about the accreditation of safety partners. And yesterday, we've also been talking about this subject under GASOS. So we would recommend to the chairman and the secretariat that when we're putting this subject to the conference and to the committee, we need to say that there was a deliberative process and there needs to be clarification, particular for the Council, when it comes to developing this initiative of having safety partners to support ICAO to fulfill its functions. I'd also like to refer to Working Paper 189 presented from Uruguay, because within this committee, we have seen that we have not been looking enough at the human factor, and it's the first time that we've had a country presenting the human factor when talking about safety, and we would like to fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peru. Portugal, you have the floor.
Obrigado, Sr. Presidente. Portugal, as one of the member states presenting the working paper 44 on increasing the efficiency of the USOAP, would like to highlight the role of the regional safety organizations and other recognized monitoring programs into the USOAP. In this regard, we would like to call the support of this conference for the recommendations proposed in the working paper 44 in order to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the USOAP and to further enhance the robustness and consistency in the assessment of the member states. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Portugal. I invite Australia to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Australia would like to support Working Paper 217 presented by Kenya on behalf of the AFCAC and congratulate African states who have made significant improvements to their effective implementation in spite of all the challenges you've listed. We would also like to thank you for sharing your approaches in collaboration, which are good examples to be copied by other regions, including developing states in the Asia-Pacific who face similar challenges with the USOAP program. Australia also supports the intervention by the United States and the request by EASA for continued reform of USOAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. Cuba, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chairman. On Working Paper 21, we would like to thank the Secretariat for the detailed information that has been presented to this committee on the evolution of the methodology and the processes and the tools for the USOAP CMA and the safety oversight audits to be carried out, and also the work that's been carried out with the GEUSR on reviewing all this. Now, on the recommendations to be approved, we can support A, so that the conference requests states to continue to engage fully in the USOAP CMA. However, as a member of the ICAO Council, before this committee, I would also like to point out that in 214/5, which is mentioned in Working Paper 21, which is related to the recommendation from the GEUSR that carried out this review, that the Council has taken of this, but there is this word of caution so that we have to avoid losing relevant information when we're reducing the total number of protocol questions and because of the planned rationalisation. And in this Council decision, of course, the ANC will make the necessary modifications if necessary, and Cuba believes that there needs to be a better definition of this approach before these questions are finally removed. So on B and C of the recommendations of WP 21, we need to have clarification of the Council decision about review, and then we would agree for the Secretary to continue to work on this to have an evolution of the methodology processes and the tools involved in USOAP CMA, and we also support Uruguay's working paper. Thank you very much for all of this, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cuba. We're having a very interesting and lively discussion, but it's now 1 minute past 11. The screen is very, very full. My suggestion is that we need to recharge. I mean, we can't use all the energy and run to zero. So we will break for coffee, 25-minute coffee break, sponsored generously by the Abyss Group, and we'll reconvene at 11:30. Enjoy your coffee. Thank you.